Now in today's video, I'm going to be looking at how the Chicago Bears can address the defensive line and how they can fix their defensive line. So I'm going to work on cultivating the best defensive line possible for the Chicago Bears with moves that they can make in free agency and with moves that they can make in the draft. I'm going to start with free agency, and I'm going to start by bringing a familiar face back to Chicago. Khalil Mack has ties with our defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, knows the scheme. Played with him with the Raiders when Dennis Allen was head coach with the Raiders his rookie season, maybe a season or two after that. Has family in Chicago still. 6 sacks, 49 pressures, 17 and a half the year before. Great run stopper. Still has 2 to 3 seasons of elite play left in him, and I think he would be a great mentor for some of our young players on our defensive line and would be great next to Montez Sweat and would help improve our run defense. Having 2 starting elite caliber defensive ends that can stop the run too and get after the quarterback, that's exciting. He played 16 games last season and played 17 games the season before, so he's put together back-to-back seasons of being healthy. So let's let Khalil Mack play his last seasons of good football in Chicago and maybe retire as a Bear, potentially. I think a guy that you could sign, a rotational guy, has ties to Dennis Allen and has ties to Montez Sweat as well, Chase Young. Played with the Saints last year and played 17 games, had a healthy season, injury concerns, trying to put that past him. He's only 25 years old, will be 26. Wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him. 5.5 sacks last year. Could be a really good rotational piece, and with him being so young, still can be somebody that could be the long-term starter for the Chicago Bears. If you sign him, it will be a cheap deal, and it will be a prove-it deal. Signed with the Saints last year for $12 million. Maybe we could get him on a similar deal like that. I wouldn't mind that. 7th in quarterback pressures, though. 66 quarterback pressures last season, so he still has some really good potential to him. And I think playing with Sweat again, playing in a scheme he knows, could maximize the potential he has right now. If he could stay healthy once again, I think this situation could work. He could be somebody that could give you 5, 6 sacks, and that's better production than we're getting from our rotational guys currently. Now to 2 guys that I would resign that are free agents from the Chicago Bears that were on the Bears last season. Jake Martin. This is a guy that had 3 sacks for the Chicago Bears last season, and this was somebody that was one of our best pass rushers at one point in time in the season. He had like 3 or 4 straight games where he had a sack, and 3 sacks in limited snaps. He wasn't seeing too many snaps, but very much he was a rotational guy for the Bears, but still had a 13.5 pass rush win rate last season, which is pretty impressive. 17 pressures too last year, so this is a guy that showed some great flashes, and he's 29 years old, excelled in that rotational role. Bringing him back would be a cheap deal too, wouldn't cost too much, so I would very much welcome him back to the Chicago Bears as our 4th or 5th best pass rusher. It would move me. We definitely need depth at defensive tackle, so bringing back Chris Williams makes sense. 26-year-old defensive tackle. Ryan Poles traded for him before week 1, and 3 sacks from him last season too. Pretty solid run stopper, filled in pretty well for Billings when he went down, and he outplayed Zach Pickens. Zach Pickens could be competing for a roster spot next year. Could be a guy that gets put on the practice squad, but I definitely liked what I saw from Chris Williams last season. Played all 17 games. Was healthy, was reliable, could be a great depth piece for us moving forward at the defense tackle position. Now getting into my draft selections, James Pierce Jr. Out of Tennessee. This is who I would take at pick 10. Great first step explosion, fast, long. He was cooking offensive tackles last year in the SEC. He's a headache to block. He was always on the quarterback's mind. Whether he was getting to the quarterback or not, he was always in the backfield, disrupting, that backfield. And with the quarterback pressures, definitely left some sacks out there. Could have had more, but 17.5 sacks the last 2 seasons for him at Tennessee. 6'5", 243 pounds, athletic freak. Really like the potential in him. Him with Khalil Mack and Montez Sweat, that's exciting. I'm excited about his development process. And I think this would be a huge hit for Ryan Poles. Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle. I got the Bears taking him at pick 39. 87.5 run defensive grade in 2024. A 2024 All-American. He dominated in the college football playoff game against Washington. 23 quarterback hurries this last season. Plays with elite power. So I think him and Dexter together could be a great replacement for Billings, long term. But I think defensive tackles, Chris Williams, Kenneth Grant, Dexter, and Billings, that's a really solid, rotation of guys. You feel really confident about that group. 6'3", 360. This is another meatball guy. He's a big dude to move. Teams in the Big Ten couldn't move him. Unmovable object. Really great run stopper. So excited about what he can be for the Chicago Bears, and another guy that will improve our run defense. Elijah Alston, edge from Miami. He had a really great season in 2023. 16 quarterback hits, 11.5 TFL, 6 sacks. A down year in 2024, but I really think he has some huge upside to him, has some great potential. This is somebody that could compete to make the roster. Really like taking him in round 7. So now you're looking at a defensive line that has Montez Sweat as your starting defensive end, James Pierce Jr. as a backup defensive end, Elijah Alston, Jake Martin, Chase Young, Austin Booker too, getting developed more under Dennis Allen. I feel like this new defense can fit him better and he can be more promising. I think this is a unit that's more promising. This defensive line goes from a weak link to one of your biggest strengths. And I think our secondary is going to play even better now. Al Harris as a secondary coach, really excited about that. Dennis Allen's going to have this defense more aggressive, more blitzes. I'm really excited how dominant this defense can be, and it starts with the trenches. It starts with this defense line. So the defensive ends look good. Defensive tackles, Dexter, Kenneth Grant, Andrew Billings, Chris Williams, and Zach Pickens. That's a group that I think will show more promise and be more consistent in stopping the run. So let me know down below in the comments what you think about this. Some defensive end prospects you're looking at, some defensive tackles, who you want to bring on this Bears defensive line to improve this unit and to have our defense a top 5 defense in the NFL next season. But I would want him to get an extension done with, Keenan Allen. I would want him to stay with the Chicago Bears for maybe 2 or 3 more years because he's coming off his best season last year with the Chargers.